Hey, good afternoon. My name's Chris Gunn, and welcome to my channel, Chris Gunn's Bourbon Barrel Creations. So, in previous videos, I've talked about my love of 13th Colony and Wild Turkey. And, once again, just kind of to highlight that again. I tell people all the time that, the success of 13th Colony is my success. As long as they continue to make really good bourbon and they're successful at selling it, then they'll have barrels and I'll have the ability to build the barrels, cabinets, and the other things I build, because I'll have the ability to get them locally sourced from somewhere in this area. Now, as far as Wild Turkey, my love of Wild Turkey goes back many, many years, and a lot of it's nostalgia. It was my dad's drink of choice growing up when he did drink bourbon. And I tell people that if they ask me my opinion or they ask what do I think is a good daily drinker, I'll tell them Wild Turkey 101 all day long, because Wild Turkey 101 is an exceptional pour for the price. And my love of the Wild Turkey Master's Keeps, I think I've stated that quite a few times. But now, if you start talking about another type of bourbon I like, which is a bourbon that's been finished in another barrel, um, I have to talk about Bardstown Bourbon Company. Now, for the people that know, please just bear with me a moment. A finished bourbon is a bourbon that you take out of the original barrel and then you put it in a secondary barrel. And that barrel can be a wine barrel. It can be a barrel of a maple barrel. It could be, I've seen them done in, even though it's not my favorite finish, I've seen them done in tequila barrels. But now, some people will tell you that they believe this should be another category of bourbon, because if you put something in bourbon, like say, for instance, Wild Turkey American honey, that's the honey's been added to the bourbon, and it can no longer be called by regulation. It can no longer be called bourbon because you put an additive in it. And so some people believe, well, they got around that by doing this barrel finish stuff. Um, I don't really have an opinion on one way or another, other than like if you do for me, my favorite one will be a wine finish, because a lot of times even though I don't like wine, I don't drink wine. I've never gotten an affinity for it. I do know that when you put bourbon in a wine barrel, it gives it a stone fruit taste, like a raspberry or a blackberry, a lot of times, and I really enjoy that. So for me, I don't believe any company can outdo Bardstown when it comes to finishing bourbons. Their master distiller, Steve Nally, is in the Kentucky Hall of Fame, and he was master distiller over at Maker's Mark for, I believe, about 30 years, and he knows what he's doing. No doubt in my mind, he knows what he's doing. But, I talk about these memories that I've developed or built over the years that kind of rotate around these bourbons. The first time I ever went to Kentucky with my little brother, we went to a lot of different places, but we honestly didn't know what we were doing at the time. I had lined us up a bunch of tours, and once you've done, 2 or 3 of the tours, they kind of explain the same thing when they show you how they produce the bourbon. But the cool thing about Bardstown in particular is it's amazing to me how much Bardstown's grown over the years that I've been in the bourbon community. The first time I went up there to now, there's probably 15, 20 additional rick houses, because you would go, like when the first time we went there, you had to drive through a cornfield to get to the Bardstown Bourbon Company. And the last time we went up there, there's no cornfields left. It was just rick houses, and they're modern looking rick houses. They've got glass in them and some other stuff. So anyway, the first time me and my brother went there, we were blown away that they had a restaurant inside the distillery. And we were even more blown away with the fact that the food was amazing. They do a caprese salad there that I would dare say is as good as any caprese salad I've ever had in my life. And I'm a little bit of I love caprese salads. I just think they're really good. And you paired that with the peach old fashions they were making that day, and I thought we could have sat there all day and drank peach old fashions and just kept eating. Now, I've subsequently been there a couple more times, and I went there one time when it was the weather was really nice, and my brother, he loves to smoke cigars, so I sat outside with him while he smoked a cigar. I'm not necessarily a big cigar smoker. I can smoke them. It's just never been my thing. Um, and then I went up there one time. The Army had sent me to Fort Knox, Kentucky for 3 weeks to go up there to do on official business. And in that 3 week period, we got one day off. And so I was up there with a couple of guys I knew from the Army, Chris Carr and Jason Decker. We decided to go to Bardstown. I know some of the people that were with us, they were like, well, we're going to Buffalo Trace. We're going to try and land some Blantons. And I was like, good, good luck for you. But I was going to Heaven Hill, hoping they'd have something good that morning. And then by lunchtime, we were going to be over at Bardstown eating lunch. Now, that particular day we went over there, the woman met us at the door, and she's like, can I help you? And I should have known something was wrong, because there was nobody in the parking lot. There was no cars whatsoever. And I told her, we're here to, get some lunch and get a drink and check out your gift shop. And she goes, well, unfortunately, we're closed today. I'm sorry. And I kind of explained to her I was a little disappointed, because it was my favorite distillery. I kind of just, I laid on the sob story, and she wasn't seeing through it, but she was a nice enough person that she said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll let you come in the gift shop, and y'all can look around. If you want to buy something, I'll ring you up. And that's really all we can do today. But I'm sorry, that's the extent of what we can do. And so, we go in there, and we're walking around the gift shop, and I had made a comment to her. I was like, yeah, I'm a little dejected, because I love your old fashions. And next thing I know, she's like, well, I'll tell you what, I'll make y'all a couple old fashions. And I was like, okay. And then over the course of her making old fashions, she came back in the gift shop, and I was explaining to Jason and Chris, why I love Bardstown so much. And she made a comment. She says, you seem to really know your Bardstown. And then I got in a conversation with her, and I said, is it true that you've got a boardroom here that's kind of a / boardroom vault, and you've got a bunch of antique whiskey and antique bourbon in there? And she goes, absolutely. She said, do you want to see it? And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. And so she takes us to this boardroom, and it is wall to wall. It's like this very long table like you'd see in a corporate headquarters, and it's floor to ceiling bourbon everywhere you look. And I am absolutely blown away. I mean, as an example, they had the whole Old Crow chess set. And if you don't know what that is, they're, so high. They're about this high. And essentially, if you got the whole set, which was porcelain decanters, you could get like a chessboard mat. You could essentially, my understanding was you play chess with it. But to get the whole set, I think is almost impossible these days. And then she had kind of explained to me that there was I asked her what the oldest whiskey or bourbon in there was, and she told me, and it was, if I remember right, it was in the 1800s. But at one point I was pointing to a bottle, and I was like, oh man, that's the Bardstown MGM Grand bottle. I have always wanted that bottle, but I couldn't get it. And she kind of laughed. She goes, yeah, you're not going to find that bottle. That bottle is, that was an exclusive for MGM Grand in Las Vegas, and my understanding is they sold them years ago. And so I kind of talked about, I was telling Chris and Jason about Steve Nally, because I had met him one time before when I was there with my brother. He took pictures with me and my brother. He's just a really nice guy. And so the next thing I know, she's like, well, Steve's floating around here somewhere. I could call him on the phone. You want to meet him? And I was like, oh man. And so Mr. Nally comes in there, and he's just salt of the earth. I mean, he's down to earth like I'd never seen. And we got in a conversation about my wife loves Piper Fabbit, which is a Bardstown bourbon finished in Piper Fabbit wine barrels. And he goes in this long conversation about how he kind of come about, making that. And it was a process of how he had gotten the barrels, and he felt like they were too dry to start with. He contacted the woman who owned Piper Fabbit, and he kind of gave her some detailed instructions, leave a quarter wine in the barrel, force nitrogen in the barrel, get all the oxygen out, freeze them, put them on a refrigerator truck, send them to me. And she was like, well, Steve, you know, this is going to cost quite a bit of money. And he's like, yep, just do it. And then he got the wine out of the barrels, put the bourbon in there, and he did his thing of sampling it till he knew he had what he wanted. And he had a hit. There's no doubt in my mind he had a hit there. And so we got in a conversation about they had done an exclusive bottle for his 50th anniversary in the bourbon industry, and how I tried to hunt it down, and I had no luck getting it. And he was like, well, you know, you really want to try it that bad? And I go, Mr. Nally, yeah, I'd love to try it. And he goes, well, come on, let's go to my office. I got a bottle in the office. And I was like, oh my Lord, I'm getting to go to Steve Nally's office. So we went up there, and then we got in a conversation about, you know, his time at Maker's Mark, and he was showing me different bottles in his office that, or if I remember right, there was a JSOC bottle in there, Joint Special Operations Command commemorative bottle, and some other stuff that I thought was pretty cool. And he had a hand in all those. And then we sampled his, and we talked bourbon for probably 45 minutes. And next thing I know, now he's walking me through the distillery, and he's giving me a personal tour of how he makes bourbon. And, you know, I talk about these memories that I wrap around bourbon. This was one of my favorite memories. So anyway, as you can see behind me, this is my bourbon collection, or my Bardstown bourbon. Now, eventually, I plan to do like an MTV crib style tour of this whole room, so you can kind of get an idea how this lays out. But you know, just to give you an idea, this is a bar cart. It's got wheels on the bottom, and I guess if I had it on a hard surface, it'd roll. It ain't gonna roll nowhere right now because it's probably about to cave the floor in. And if you looked at the end, I'll show it in more detail when I do the tour of the room. It's got like slates that look like whiskey barrel slates, and then I use this. These are corks, and there's 3 of them back here. These are corks that are off bottles of bourbon I've drank. And so what I do with them, if you'd use the cart for what it's intended for, you'd put ice in this, and then people can make mixed drinks. But I put all my corks in here, so I kind of get a running tally of what I've done. And then I've also got like my Kentucky Bourbon Trail passport. And I want to say there's a craft distillery one over there, but these are, you know, stamps that, man, you go to the distilleries and you get them stamped. Supposedly, when you get the book complete, the last distillery you go to will give you a commemorative glass. And so, just so you know, too, I got something in the glass tonight, and what I've got in this glass, which I'm going to take a drink real quick because I'm getting dry mouth. I tried to make this video one time before already, and I didn't realize that the microphone I was using was dead, so I had to restart the whole video. Now, what's in the glass? This is what's in the glass. This is Bardstown Discovery 11. Everybody affectionately calls these discos instead of Discovery. What this is generally your Discoveries. There's 2 different kinds of this lines that they did. Down here in the very back, you can't see it, but I've got the Fusion series, which was their distillate. They wanted to get it maturated to at least 4 years. And up to the point that they didn't have this done, they would take the Fusion series, would be like their 2 to 3 year old bourbon, and they would mix it with other distilleries' older bourbon, and you know, they would, you know, essentially fuse them together. And they're very transparent about what they do. Anytime you get a bottle, they'll always, like, if they're like a Discovery or a Fusion, they'll generally lay out what's in the bottle on the side. Now, because I don't have my glasses on, I can't read this. But I'm pretty sure it says like whatever's in this bottle is 73% of this bottle is a 12-year-old bourbon. Everybody seems to think that, and I have to agree, that there's wild turkey distillate in this bottle. But up here, I have my Discoveries. And I don't have them all, but I've got the ones I do are up here. Now this one's kind of cool too. I'm not sure if my camera will pick it up, but there's a logo on that bottle. And what the logo is, it's like Thor's hammer, and it says U.S. Army Joint Modernization Command, Forge the Future. This was an organization that I was part of out at Fort Bliss, Texas. And when I left, they gave me this as a going away gift because they knew I loved Bardstown. So I'm trying to set these down real slow too, because if I hit real hard, it'll clank. So just to kind of give you an idea, I've got Like I said, in the very back row, I've got the Fusion series, and then I've got like 2 rows of finished bourbons, and then behind that, I've got the Origin series. The Origin series was basically when they finally got to the point they felt like they were ready to release their own distillate. Now, another thing that I forgot to mention about Bardstown, if you see stuff that's called if the distillate's coming out of Indiana, it's coming from MGP, that's Midwest Grain Products. They generally are probably one of the biggest makers of bourbon for other companies. A lot of people are saying that Bardstown is getting to that point now that they could be the MGP of Kentucky. Because when you go in their gift shop, they'll have all the different places they make bourbon for. They'll have bottles in there to kind of give you an idea of what they make for. But let's just kind of go through a couple of these bottles to give you an idea. I talked about Pie for Fabbit. This is hands down the best finished bourbon I've ever had in my life. It's straight bourbon whiskey finished in Pie for Fabbit, Cabernet Sauvignon barrels. I know I just butchered those 2 words. But as you can tell, I put a hurt on this bottle. And not only me, my wife has put a hurt on this bottle. She does not like bourbon per se, like I do, but I've had to basically ration this bottle with her because I think that Mr. Nally probably got unicorn tears in this bottle somehow. And then I talked about this bottle earlier. This is the MGM Grand bottle, and it's straight bourbon whiskey finished in Napa Valley Cabernet wine barrels. Now, one of the good things about being in the Army was I traveled a lot. And generally I would get these, they were those kind of blow up sleeves that you could slide a bottle into. So I'd always pack those when I go on a trip. But I had a buddy of mine, Gary Fox, he worked with me at the last place I worked, and he had to go out to Fort Irwin, California. Now, if you've never been to Fort Irwin, California, I advise you don't go. It is in the land of nowhere. It is one of the premier places the Army trains. It's adjacent to Death Valley, and it's wide open. You can put hundreds of tanks out there in simulated combat. But other than that, there's really nothing to do out there. One of the things about going to Fort Irwin, though, is you can fly. One of the places you fly into is Vegas, and it's a 3-hour trip to get there. But Gary had flew into Vegas and was flying back out. And on the way out, I asked him if he would stop by and confirm or deny whether they were sold out of this bottle. And the story he gave me was he had to go to the 6th floor to a special gift shop, and they had very few of them left, but they did have some. So Gary got it for me. I paid him back. And I appreciate you doing that, Gary. And then I've got, let me pull this one out. Hopefully I don't make too much noise. So this one's kind of interesting. Just to give you an idea, this is Goose Island Stout finished bourbon. My wife has a cousin named Jenny. She has like a podcast where she talks about women in the bourbon industry, and she is extremely knowledgeable about that subject. And I look forward to the day that I meet her in person and we can have a pour together, because I definitely would like to hear some of her thoughts on the bourbon industry and what she knows. So that's kind of a cool one. Just a couple. I'll show a couple more. So this one's signed by Mr. Nally and the master blender. I believe his last name's Nick. It's Nick Smith. I'm pretty sure his last name's Smith. But this was a KBF, Kentucky Bourbon Festival 2024 exclusive bottle, and my friend Sean grabbed that one for me because he knows how much I love Bardstown. And then I could go on and on and on because I got each one of these bottles are fairly different and they've got interesting stories, but I'll kind of stop with this bottle. This is a Herculean. This was a gift shop exclusive. It is a blend of 21-year Irish whiskey and American bourbon. I'm not a fan per se of Irish whiskey or Scotch, but I got to tell you, that's Mr. Nally once again knocked it out of the park. So anyway, I talk about this all the time. If you've got a good pour, hopefully you got somebody you care about you enjoy it with. And so build those memories together. And if you like what you see here, please like, subscribe, and turn on the bell for notification. And I will continue to attempt to put out content that people enjoy. And with that, I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you at the next one.